Here is a complete guide to completing the Shattered Veil Easter egg on Black Ops 6 Zombies. This can be completed on both solo or co-op and will be as comprehensive a guide as possible so you can beat this Easter egg on your first attempt. If you find this guide useful, then be sure to let me know. Recommended loadout weapon for this Easter egg is the ASG shotgun. These are the attachments that I run for the ASG shotgun, and for field upgrade, one of the steps requires the Ether Shroud field upgrade. And even though you can switch your field upgrade in-game, I highly recommend you use Ether Shroud anyway. Gobblegums are not a necessity, but gobblegums like Raindrops, Killjoy, and Perkaholic, if you go down and lose your perks in the boss fight, will be extremely useful. Diving straight in, the first part of the Easter egg requires you to be at round 10 or above. Whilst progressing to round 10, you'll want to open up the map and access Pack-a-Punch. And to do so, you'll need to follow the orange waypoints of investigating the mansion, getting a fuse from a maintenance worker in the library by shooting this zombie body, and once done and picked up, you'll then want to follow the waypoint to Richtofen's computer, which is located in director's quarters, and by shooting this computer will pop out a circuit board part you'll want to pick up. Once you've got both of those parts, head to the marker where you'll repair the elevator by going round the back and holding your interact button. Once repaired, you'll want to then call the elevator, which will cause it to rise and open with a horde of zombies. Once you've taken care of them, follow the elevator shaft down a zip line that will lead you into the main frame chamber, where if you follow the orange marker to take you to Pack-a-Punch, you can now move on to the first step, which is to acquire the ray gun Mark II. Now, this can be gotten for free out the mystery box using the Wonderbar Gobblegum, but there is a way to get it for free every single time. Once you are on round 10 or above and you are down underground in the mainframe chamber or the service tunnels, a lab technician zombie will spawn that if you take down will drop a floppy disk part that you'll want to pick up. If he's not there for you on round 10, just progress a few rounds and he should spawn in. Sometimes it could be worth checking the floor for the gold glowing floppy disk, as it could have dropped without you noticing, but once you've picked it up, you've got the first part. You'll then want to use the floppy disk by putting it into a fax machine in the east foyer, not far from the T-Rex skeleton. It will look like this, and once it's interacted with, the fax machine will slowly be printing off a Project Janus paper. Be careful though, because whilst you do this, a bunch of vermin will spawn in. Take them all out until the fax machine has finished printing. Interacting with a piece of paper will bring up a text prompt where within the sentence there will be a 4-letter word in all capital letters. This word can vary, so don't just copy the word you see in this video, make sure you use the word in your game. The full list of words that it can be is moth, crab, yeti, or worm. But in this example, the word that I got was crab. Remember your 4-letter word and find the chalkboard within the nursery room. The chalkboard will look like this, and on this chalkboard there are groups of letters. Some groups with lots of letters, some with very little letters. We need to use these groups of letters to create a 4-digit code. So take the word that you got. So in my game, my word was crab, so I need to look for the letter C on the chalkboard. In this specific game, the letter C here was in a group of 9 letters, as you can see in the middle of the board, meaning that my first numerical digit is going to be 9. The next letter in my word was R, which we can see is in a group of letters just to the right, and there are 7 letters total, which means the next number is 7. I then look for my third letter, which in my word is A, and if I look in the bottom right, I can see that there are a group of 2 letters with A in, meaning that my third number is 2. And then finally, your fourth and final letter, which for me was B, is in that big group of 9, so I know that my final number is a 9. Once you have your 4-digit code, head back down to the service tunnels where you'll see a doppelgast who's been trapped in a room with a glass door. Next to that door is a keypad which you can now interact with. Enter your 4-digit code and the door will open. Take down the doppelgast and it will drop a severed arm part. Once you've got this part, you'll then want to enter the supply depot, which is through the service tunnels, and you'll then want to access the armory through this door. If you interact with this keypad, the severed arm should then reveal the ray gun Mark II, which if you pick up, you'll have gotten for free, and we can now move on to the next steps of the Easter egg. Now, the main Easter egg steps are broken down into 3 different parts that vary between each of the 3 different ray gun Mark II upgrade variants. I'll break each of those sections down bit by bit, but in order to do any of them, you're first going to need to collect the 3 ray gun Mark II upgrade canisters. In order to acquire the Mark II R canister, you'll first need to make sure you've got a Casimir grenade. You can acquire either by crafting at the crafting table or coming up to this zombie in the service tunnel opposite the armor wall by, where in its hand will be a free Casimir grenade. Make your way to the rear patio behind and under double tap, and in this zombie window barrier, you're going to want to throw the Casimir in front of, and if you notice, she'll suck up a canister that was in this window, and after the Casimir is ended, you'll be able to pick the canister up. In order to get the ray gun Mark II W canister, around the map are going to be blue crystals or rocks that will be slightly high up, which each have the chance to drop a empty empty canister. One of them can be found in the service tunnel up on the ceiling here to the left. Another can be found in the conservatory. A third can be found just on the roof of the mansion in southwest balcony. And the last location can be found on the ceiling here in east foyer. For the final canister, you're going to need to require tomahawks. These can be crafted from the crafting table, but you can find them around the map for free in certain locations. These locations are on this tree stump right in the spawn room. Another can be found to the side of this bed in nursery, and another can be found to the right of the pack-a-punch machine. Once you've gotten at least 3 combat axes, make your way to the service tunnel, and out the map you should see this smoking pipe. What you're going to want to do is throw a tomahawk at the gas valve that is to the lower right of this, and if done correctly, should spin and start emitting gas just like the first pipe. Once you've done that correctly, you'll then want to throw a tomahawk at the pipe valve labeled B, and if done correctly, you should hear a quote from Samantha, and in the mainframe chamber, you'll notice that this chamber is now filled up with gas, and if you use an explosive grenade or explosive weapon, will shatter the glass, revealing the final canister. Now that we have all 3 canisters, we now need to build each of the 3 ray gun variants and complete an Easter egg tied to that ray gun, and we'll start with the ray gun Mark R Easter egg quest. So firstly, we need to build it, and we need to collect 4 seeds from around the map from these small orange plants that can be found in various locations outside the map. One potential spawn can be here in this conservatory, one to the left entrance of the mansion, one in the garden pond by the staircase next to a trap, and the 4th one is on the west balcony by a tree. Now, there are still more spawns than this. There can be one behind Double Tap, as well as one at Shem's Henge. Just be sure to check outside the map and look absolutely everywhere. You need to make sure you shoot the orange plants with the normal Mark II ray gun. If you shoot it with another weapon, they'll just explode, and you'll have to wait for them to grow back. You can also get the seeds by using a grenade, a Semtex, or Molotov as well. Once you've collected all 4 seeds from 4 orange plants, go to the conservatory and plant each seed in these planter machines that you can see on screen now. There are 4 in total. Once you've placed the seed in all 4 planters, head to the top of the staircase to put your empty canister in the device to charge it up. From here, once you interact with one of the seeds around the map, you'll see a toxic spores harvested objective appear, where you will have an infinite spawn of purple-eyed zombies that will try and attack planter. Your job is simply to defend it by taking out the zombies until you see the progress bar go up by 1/4. Once it has, you can then move on to another seed location, which can be right opposite upstairs here. And you'll want to rinse and repeat that until the bar has filled up to halfway. Once that is done, make your way downstairs and repeat the same for this seeder location right here, and then the final one, which is outside opposite the quick revive perk machine. Once all 4 are completed, you should be able to pick up the new charged canister, which will now be called a toxic canister. Take this to the workbench near the spawn area, and you can craft yourself the ray gun Mark II-R. Now that we have the ray gun Mark II-R, we can now begin an Easter egg tied to it, which takes place in the library. Interact with this computer to the left of the portal, and it will begin a timed objective where you need to charge the liminal portal by eliminating zombies with the ray gun Mark II-R. If you run out of ammo at any point, just remember there's an ammo box that you can use to replenish ammo to complete this within the time limit, and if done correctly, the objective will be complete, and you'll now be able to go through the painting into the liminal library. Within here will be a ghost called Colton, who will be giving you clues as to where to find a series of items that he's requesting. These 3 items and the locations will change per game, so it's worth listening to the Colton ghost just for a little bit to hear the clues that he gives you. All of these parts can be found pretty close to the library and will require you to be an ether shroud in order to pick them up. One area you'll want to check is the overlook right here by the bar, where in our game we found 1 audio log spawn. Another spawn can be directly in front of the portrait on the sofas. Another location is on the top of East Foyer on this desk, which should pick up a ledger. And another spawn for this can be in the study on this table. And finally, you'll need to find a part within a fireplace. One of the fireplace spawns is within the East Foyer. Another can be in the banquet hall. And a third can be also in the study. I will leave all written spawn locations for this as well within the description if you guys need any additional help. Once you have all 3 parts, make your way back into the distilled library, and you'll notice that on the bookshelf there will be 3 books. If you head back into the normal library, you'll notice that the same 3 books will now be glowing with an ethereal white glow to them. You'll need to interact and activate these books in a random order, so try from left to right, middle left right, middle right left, until each book glows blue, and it will reveal a secret door where you'll be able to pick up a nuclear plant inspection report. Now all players need to go into the distilled library and interact interact with this podium to start a lockdown. It's imperative if you're doing this on co-op that at least one person has the ray gun Mark II in order to progress this step. Once interacted with the podium, the Sentinel artifact will be placed down and you will have a elite boss to take down that will have a yellow bubble around it that can only be broken with the ray gun Mark II-R. Once it's broken, you can emit massive damage, and once taken down, you'll have one of 3 main Easter egg steps complete. Now we've done that, we can move on to the next step involving the next ray gun Mark II variant. And we'll move on to the Mark II-P. In order to begin progress for this, you'll first want to get an essence bomb part, and this can be found in one of the breakable Project Janus boxes that are all around the map. They are in every area, including the outside of the mansion, within the mansion, and underground. So just look around the map and keep destroying them until you find one that drops the essence bomb part. Once you've got the essence bomb, head down to the service tunnel area and find where the level 3 armor is on the wall, and nearby will be some rubble that looks like it could be blown up. Interact with the rocks and it will blow up, revealing a new, really cool looking secret room called the Serpent Mound. From here, we now need to collect 2 refractor parts, and these are pieces of purple glass that are noticeable in the fountains around the mansion. The first refractor part can be found in the conservatory in this fountain here, and the other location can be found in the fountain in the southwest balcony. Once you've got both pieces, make your way to the Serpent Mound and interact with this pole to place one of the refractors here, and then across the room to the left of the canister will be a second pole for you to place the second refractor. Once both are placed, go ahead and insert the canister into the canister holder to the right in the room. Once inserted, you'll notice a bunch of lasers. Simply melee the crystal in this room and you'll notice an energy flow through all of the lasers and the refractors that will go down to this doppelganger statue, spawning in one of 3 doppelgangers that you'll need to take out. Once we've done that, we now need to complete a little puzzle. So firstly, we melee the first refractor once, and the lasers should now be rebounding up into a little cavern that is above in the Serpent Mound. If that is the case, go ahead and pick up the second refractor part and then run through this door up towards this second level and then place the refractor in this new laser position. From here, you'll then want to melee the refractor and it should be shining on a second doppelganger statue, which if done correctly like so, melee the crystal, the energy will flow through the lasers and then hit that second statue, spawning in a second doppelganger that you'll want to take out. Now for the last puzzle, for the final doppelganger, you want to melee the first refractor once, then go ahead and pick up the refractor piece from that higher level, place it back on that second refractor on the ground floor, go ahead and melee the first refractor a couple of times until you notice the pattern like this, where it beams up into the ceiling, bounces off all of the other beams on the ceiling without going to the second refractor, and it should align onto this final doppelganger statue. If done correctly, melee the crystal and it will spawn a slightly stronger version of a doppelganger that once taken out will complete this challenge, and you'll be able to pick up the canister, which should now be a light canister. Make your way over to Director's Quarters and there will be a workbench where you can now craft and convert the Mark II into the Mark II-P. Now we have the Mark II-P, we can start its Easter egg quest, which is in Banquet Hall, by interacting with this computer next to the portrait. Here you'll need to charge the portal by eliminating zombies with the ray gun Mark II-P until that percentage bar hits 100. Once completed, you'll be able to enter the liminal Banquet Hall, and inside you will notice that there will be 3 portraits with 3 symbols on. Inside of this room as well, at the end of the dining table will be a red bottle that you'll be able to pick up that is a ritual elixir. Once you have this, we then need to interact with 3 different blood cups around the map, which will each spawn in an elder disciple. The first location is this cup in the bottlery area, and once you've taken out the disciple, you will notice a symbol appearing above the cup. Once completed, back at the banquet hall, you'll notice that on the wall, one of the portraits will now have a number, which should appear if you've done that step correctly. The second blood cup can be found in the overlook on a sofa on the opposite side to the T-Rex. Interact with it, take out the elder disciple, and look for the symbol on top of the cup. And if done correctly in the banquet hall, there should be another 2-digit number that's appeared on one of the empty portrait spots. And the last and final blood cup can be found on this bench in Garden Pond, where once interacted with, the elder disciple will spawn on the bridge, and once taken out will have the final symbol. When returning to banquet hall, on the wall should be 3 sets of 2-digit numbers which you need to read from left to right, which is a safe code. This code will differ in every single game, but once you've noted it down, make your way into the west hallways and you'll notice this safe, which you should now be able to interact with, and you're going to be putting in the safe code from left to right. Once you've put in the correct code, the safe should open, and inside should be a part that you can pick up, called the antler carving. Once you have that, make your way into the liminal banquet hall and interact with the podium to begin another lockdown. But you'll need to take down a elite version of a zombie with a bubble shield, but you need to be using the ray gun Mark II-P in order to break it. Once the HVT has been taken down, that will be our second of 3 Easter egg steps complete. And for the final Easter egg step, we're first going to need to get ray gun Mark II-W. And to do so, make your way to Shem's Henge and place the empty canister into this device in front of Speed Cola. Once the canister has been inputted, 1 to 2 abominations will spawn, but don't immediately take these down, but wait for them to shoot its beam, as you're going to need to direct their beams at 3 of the smaller rocks on the outside of the circle, which if they beam with their laser will turn the rocks blue. If done successfully, the rock should look like this, and you'll now need to get the abomination to charge near the rock, where the abomination will have an electrical charge coming out of it, which will electrify the rock, causing it to float into the air. You're going to need to repeat this for all 3 of the small rocks around this area, getting the abomination to laser them and then to run near them in order for them to float in the air. And once all 3 have successfully risen, a lockdown sequence will begin where you need to stop vermin from disrupting the power siphon. There are going to be a ton of zombies as well as parasites and vermin that you need to take out, but you need to protect this until it gets all the way to 100. And once completed, you can go and collect the canister, which will now be an explosive canister. From here, go to the workbench in the supply depot and you'll be able to upgrade your Mark II to a Mark II-W. Now that we have the Mark II-W, you'll then want to head to just outside of the banquet hall, where to the right in this cardboard box will be a sconce part that you'll be able to pick up. Once it's in your inventory, make your way to the grand foyer, and next to Juggernog on the wall is going to be an empty slot where you can place down the sconce. Once placed, one of the lanterns is going to illuminate, beginning as Simon Says. All you need to do is, once one of the lamps has finished flashing, go up to the lamp and interact with it to copy what it showed. In this instance, I just had the left lamp flash once, then flash twice, and then finally it flashed 3 total times. Once you've completed the 3rd set of Simon Says, the wall will reveal itself, taking you into a new area called the distillery. With the Mark II-W in hand, you want to interact with the computer next to this portrait, where you'll then want to power up the portal by eliminating zombies, specifically using the ray gun Mark II-W. Once complete, you'll be able to enter through the painting into the liminal distillery, where inside will be a ghost who's requiring a nightcap flask. In order to complete this step, you'll first need to acquire brain rot onto your weapon from the arsenal machine, and you'll also want to pick up this bell, which can be found in this broken glass in the study. With both of those items, make your way to the overlook, and on the bar you should be able to see a ghostly form of the bell, which if you interact will place the bell. And now you will need to brain rot a zombie next to the bar and then press the bell. And if done correctly, the zombie should climb over the bar, reach into the shelf, and bring out a nightcap flask that, once drunken, will appear on the bar for you to pick up. With that item, make your way into the liminal distillery and place it on the plinth to begin another lockdown with a HVT, where you'll need to take it down using the corresponding ray gun Mark II-W. Once taken out, the Sentinel artifact will be completely filled and you will be ready to activate the boss fight. But beforehand, I highly recommend you get your weapons to triple pack-a-punch at legendary rarity, including the ray gun Mark II-W or the ray gun Mark II-R. And if anyone in your team has a lot of points spare, it might be worth hitting the box to try and get the Wonder Wafer DG2, as it is incredibly useful in the boss fight for crowd control. I also highly recommend you craft a chopper gunner score streak before going into this boss fight, as it is extremely effective, as well as getting any mega gobble gums that you think will be handy to take in, where I've got Perkaholic and Raindrops as backups. When all players are ready, interact with this platform in front of the SAM AI in the mainframe chamber to begin an incredible mid-game cutscene that leads into the boss fight. This boss fight is broken down into 4 different phases, with each phase getting more harder as it goes on. Boss can be damaged at any time, and its main critical points are going to be its glowing eyes, its mouth when it opens to puke out acid, as well as its rib cage, which opens every so often, where the boss usually sits in place to spawn a ton of zombies. The best way to approach this boss is to rotate around the boss arena in either a clockwise or non-clockwise clockwise direction, making sure to dodge any of the acid pools that the T-Rex spawns. Anytime it roars, there will be a critical spot on its ribcage that if you hit with the Ray Gun Mark II will do 24,000 critical damage. Once the boss has gotten down to 75% health, it will retreat up onto the cliff face, and there will be a few zombies that will be spawning, which again, the player with the Wonder Waffle DG2 will make light work of taking out. The one downside to this boss fight is there doesn't seem to be regular max ammo spawns, so it's definitely advised to come in here with a good few tens of thousand points so you can buy ammo from the ammo boxes. Casimirs are also fantastic for this boss fight, and you will again want to be focusing solely on the eyes, the mouth, and then that critical spot on the side when it opens, whilst again going round in a clock or anti-clockwise direction. For phase 2, there will be more green gas puddles than before, and the T-Rex will be moving a little bit quicker. At any point, he can also do a big jump into the air and nosedive onto one of the players in the boss fight, so just make sure you're constantly moving and dodging anything and everything. Once the boss fight is down to half health, the Z-Rex will retreat back onto the cliff face again, spawning even more bigger pools of acid in much more dangerous areas, so you want to be constantly running around them. Moving into phase 3, the boss fight will be a lot more violent in terms of its movement than it has been, where it will be a lot quicker and will be tracking one of the players, where it can throw players forward, dropping their health down by half. It's during this part that if you're playing in co-op and someone has a chopper gunner, this is a great time to deploy it, as it does incredible damage to the T-Rex. If you encounter a moment where he is diving forwards into you multiple times, it sounds strange, just go backwards. Otherwise, you are going to be unable to continue to dodge his attacks. Keep your distance at all times, keep on the run. You should get him down to 25% health, where you are now in the final phase. If playing solo, save the chopper gunner for this final phase, as it will be absolutely deadly, and you should have no problems at all completing this final phase whilst in the chopper gunner. Fighting him on the ground, again, just make sure you are constantly moving to dodge any and all of his attacks, and if you are flung forwards by him, immediately move backwards afterwards. And if done successfully, you will have completed the main quest for the Shattered Veil. If you found this guide useful at any point at all, let me know by dropping a thumbs up on the video, as it only takes a second and I really appreciate it. If you need any additional help during these steps, I'll have additional information in the description, and if you need help for any of the other zombies maps in Black Ops 6, then check out these Easter egg guides on your screen right now.